Welcome at Dhie Tourism and Music Channel. Greeting Dhie Tourism and Music Channel from Blitar. The Grave of Sukarno, or Bung Karno's grave, is the grave of Sukarno, Indonesia's first president, in Blitar, East Java. Initially an ordinary grave where he was buried shortly after his death, a mausoleum was constructed in the late 1970s and the site evolved into a political and religious pilgrimage site, receiving hundreds of thousands of visitors annually. History. During the transition to the new order, deposed first president of Indonesia Sukarno was placed under house arrest, and he requested that he be buried in a simple grave close to the Bogor Palace. Following Sukarno's death on June 21, 1970, then-incumbent Suharto decided to bury the former president in a public cemetery at Blitar, East Java, next to Sukarno's mother's grave. Sukarno's family protested his burial in Blitar, and the anti-Suharto newspaper Merdeka published an editorial stating that Sukarno had wished to be buried near Bandung. In his later autobiography, Suharto claimed that Sukarno's large family had differing views on the burial site, and argued that Sukarno had been very close to his mother during her life. A historian later claimed that Suharto's decision to bury Sukarno in Blitar was to avoid pilgrimages to Sukarno's grave too close to the political center of power in Jakarta. In the first years after Sukarno's burial, pilgrims would visit his grave and often took some of the soil, at some point causing concern that all the soil on his grave would be gone and forcing the government to regulate access to his grave. By around 1977, dissatisfaction with Suharto's rule resulted in the loosening of the desukarnoization policy and a rehabilitation of Sukarno's legacy, including his grave. And the following year the government decided to construct a mausoleum over the grave. In 1979, on the 8th anniversary of Sukarno's death, Suharto dedicated the new mausoleum, in a ceremony attended by approximately 1 million people. Again, members of Sukarno's family criticized the decision to build the mausoleum, with Sukarno's son Guntur saying that Sukarno's family was not involved in the mausoleum's construction. Regardless, high-ranking officials of Suharto's government would make publicized pilgrimages to the tomb, and in 1980 1.4 million people visited the site. Each year, on the anniversary of Sukarno's death, his family, in particular his daughter Megawati Soekarno Putri, chairman of the Indonesian Democratic Party, would utilize the crowds visiting the mausoleum as a representation of dissent against Suharto's government in the national media. In 1995, there were around 10,000 visitors to the annual commemoration. There were initially fences surrounding the grave preventing it from becoming a pilgrimage site and keeping the grave itself sterile of visitors, but after the fall of Suharto, Megawati became president in 2001. And the site began attracting a large number of pilgrims from across Indonesia. In June 2001, it was estimated that 25,000 people visited the grave daily. While it was not feasible during Suharto's era, After Suharto's fall, Blitar's city administration under Yoro Saiful Hidayat chose to utilize the grave in order to improve the city's allure as a tourist destination. And many statues of Sukarno were built across the city, while old sites associated with Sukarno were restored. Pilgrims around the grave in 2016. Sukarno's grave presently is a common site for political pilgrimages. Many politicians visit the grave prior to announcing their runs for office, including Joko Widodo, Prabowo Subianto and Megawati Sukarno Putri prior to their presidential campaigns in 2014, 2019 and 2004, respectively. It was estimated in 2015 that the number of political pilgrims to Sukarno's grave numbered between 400 to 500,000 every year.
Minta dibuka,
Tidak dibuka supaya lebih merayat tanpa ada batas. Iya, maksudnya begitu.
Iya, beliau waktu masih Sugeng Rumiyin, waktu menjabat presiden, suka dekat dengan rakyat.
Oke.
Meskipun sudah tiada,
Tetap
biar bisa dekat
tidak ada
dengan
batas.
rakyat, biar senang di akhirat.
Wah,
itu permintaan keluarga, ya Bapak, permintaan keluarga seperti itu. Kalau dulu sebelum dibuka kacanya yang bisa dekat tertentu saja, keluarga atau pejabat.
Apakah pada hari meninggalnya beliau itu ada perayaan khusus oleh keluarga atau
Ada,
seremoni apa kira-kira, Pak?
Di sini sudah diagendakan haul beliau itu ada 1000 tumpeng namanya 1000 tumpeng.
1000 tumpeng ya.
Mulai dari depan sampai ke Istana Gebang itu ada tumpengan, Pak. Itu namanya 1000 tumpeng.
1000 tumpeng.
Itu sudah diagendakan sama Pemkot Blitar.
Sudah diatur. Itu rutin berarti ya?
Rutin tanggal 20 Juni malam. Jadi malam 21 Juni.
Oh, 21 Juni ya. Luar biasa sekali. Itu seharian ya acara ini di sini ya.
Pagi tanggal 21 pagi itu lintas agama mendoakan beliau.
Oke.
Jadi kelima agama bergantian mendoakan beliau di depan situ. Jadi lintas agama mendoakan beliau. Tanggal
21.
20 itu ada khatam Quran, Pak. Malamnya tanggal 21 itu lintas agama mendoakan beliau di depan.
Baik. Berarti itu memang sudah disusun secara tetap ya acara tersebut.
Pak, sudah.
Apakah masyarakat pada saat itu bisa melihat, bisa mengikuti acara dengan sesama atau hanya keluarga, Pak?
Itu semuanya untuk umum, Pak.
Untuk umum ya?
Untuk umum. Bahkan gendurinya itu bisa dimaem sareng-sareng, dimakan sama-sama, siapapun boleh maem.
Alhamdulillah.
Jadi genduri bersama, bahkan ada orang luar kota atau luar pulau kebetulan di sini waktu itu bisa genduri bersama di depan. Untuk umum, untuk semua.
Nah, itu peninggalan sejarah, Pak ya. Luar biasa sekali. Pak, bisa dibayangkan itu ramai dan hikmat ya, meskipun ramai tapi suasananya pasti hikmat ya.
Iya, Pak, kalau ramainya itu pasti ramai. Tapi selama Covid di sini tidak diagenda, tidak ada haul.
Iya.
Cuma
hanya keluarga ya.
Khususnya kanan kiri di sini atau warga setempat sini yang merayakan, Pak.
Oh, khusus yang terdekat saja.
Terdekat para pedagang atau kanan
Tapi
kiri.
pasti keluarga pasti.
Kalau keluarga itu sebelum
Khusus
Covid
ya.
itu kalau ada haul pasti datang salah satu. Itu pasti ada. Dari putra dan putri pasti rawuh. Tapi selama Covid ini tidak ada haul. 1000 tumpeng tidak ada karena menghindari keramaian.
Iya, karena memang tujuannya memang memutus mata rantai corona ya.
Ya, jadi yang memperingati khusus warga setempat sini.
Untuk menghormati.
Untuk genduri ya siapapun juga boleh, Pak.
Oh, boleh ya?
Boleh, Pak.
Jadi tidak ada batasan ya?
Tidak ada batasan, Pak. Ya.
Terima kasih, Pak, ini penjelasan ini karena ini liputan khusus karena tidak semua orang, bahkan tidak semua channel bisa mengakses ini pada keadaan seperti malam ini kalau tidak khusus. Jadi nggak mungkin dapat hal-hal yang bersifat lebih luas lagi informasinya yang dapat diterima.
Terima kasih atas kunjungannya, ziarahnya. Saya mengucapkan semoga barokah.
Amin.
Ziarahnya,
Amin.
Bapak Ibu semuanya.
Amin.
Matur suwun.
At the time of its construction, the second type of visitors to the grave are spiritual pilgrims, primarily Muslims. Although veneration of the dead is often considered blasphemy within Islam, there is strong Javanese tradition of visiting holy men graves, such as the Vali Sangha, and tens of thousands of Javanese Muslims visit Sukarno's grave each year in order to obtain his spiritual blessing. It is also a popular tourism destination. There is also an annual tradition for the commander of the Indonesian National Armed Forces to visit the grave annually on each September 18th, the anniversary date for the TNI. As of 2019, Blitar's tourism agency recorded around 1,500 visits to the grave on average each day. The site has been a significant driver for the local economy due to the number of tourists it generates. Since 2017, the municipal government has been charging Rp 3,000, US $0.2, in entry fees per visitor, their vehicles excluded. Design. The entire burial complex is located on 1.8 hectares of land and is divided into three areas: the courtyard, terrace, and the mausoleum, symbolizing Javanese beliefs in stages of life, prenatal, life and death. Sukarno's grave itself is located next to his parents, and a black epitaph commemorating his career is placed behind his gravestone. The complex also has a library and a museum which were built in 2004, in addition to statues and reliefs depicting Sukarno's life. Please you're following and supporting this channel and enjoy will be updating content. Thanks you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe and share.